2015 is probably the pinnacle of high-powered, yet budget-friendly smartphones. Different manufacturers have been very clever in creating and designing devices that would approve the taste of the majority without letting them to shell out a lot of cash. And Asus is one of the few companies who have been pulling it off very well. From the release of the famed Zenfone 5 to the celebrated Zenfone 2, which delivered top-notch specifications at an unbelievable price tag. And now, Asus is at it again. We got our hands with the new Asus Zenfone Selfie. The name implies that this may have a lot of novelties inside, but by reading the spec sheet, it looks like it packs a lot of punch. Something that is unsurprising for a device that's coming from Asus. Now, shall we start? Since Asus have been pulling the trigger rapidly in the recent months by releasing new smartphones instantaneously, it is no surprise that almost all of the recent Zenfone devices has the same aesthetics footprints. The Zenfone Selfie looks very identical to its older brother, the Zenfone 2, with only some few hardware inclusions and upgrades that sets them apart. And just like the Zenfone 2, it is also pretty evident how this device resembles the looks that some LG devices have. The curved back, button placements, and the layout of the device's chin made it look very identical to some LG smartphones like the G3. Whether it is unscrupulous or not will really depend on your perspective, but for us, it really went well for the Zenfone Selfie. The angled back made the smartphone fit ergonomically in the hands, and the volume controls are easily reachable since it is placed where your index finger usually rests. Although I have noticed that the volume rocker is kinda hard to press, the buttons themselves are a bit rigid, thus pressing it may cause the device to lean forward. But on the brighter side, it made the sides super thin, hence the curved layout. Although what I didn't understand is why they haven't also placed the lock and power button at the back rather than at the top, which is insanely hard to reach for this gigantic 5.5-inch device. But nevertheless, Asus included a lot of off-screen gestures to compensate, so you don't have to always reach out for that button. Also, despite some heavy muscle inside, the Zenfone Selfie is surprisingly light. This is probably due to the materials used on this one, which is plastic. Taking a tour, we do have a large 5.5-inch IPS Full HD display on front that is covered with Corning Gorilla Glass 4. We do also have the sensors that are intensely hidden in the upper left side, 13-megapixel front-facing camera with True Tone flash, the earpiece that is symmetrically positioned with the flash, LED notification indicator, and the capacitive buttons at the bottom. Both left and the right sides are empty, while the top has the 3.5mm headphone jack, lock and power switch, and the noise cancelling microphone. The bottom has the micro USB port and the primary built-in microphone. At the back, we also see the 13-megapixel primary camera with True Tone flash, the ultra-fast laser autofocus, some Asus branding, and lastly, the loudspeakers. Popping out the back panel shall reveal the dual SIM slots, which are both capable of 4G connection, and a micro SD card slot that is capable of up to 64GB of storage. It is also nice to see a removable 3000 mAh battery, a major step up not only from the Zenfone 2, but also to almost a lot of flagship devices from other companies today. The Asus Zenfone Selfie utilizes a 5.5-inch IPS Full HD display with 1080 by 1920 resolution and has 403 pixels per inch. These are all wrapped with Corning Gorilla Glass 4. Display quality have been phenomenal. The large display gives a lot of real estate for productivity and also makes movies and games more immersive. Everything looks razor sharp and crispy thanks to its 1080p display. Also, in true IPS fashion, colors do pop a lot. But blacks aren't the deepest of all, especially if compared to AMOLED displays. Viewing angles and outdoor visibility, on the other hand, is plain impressive. Despite some of the tip-top features that I've already stated, the device still packs a punch under the hood. The Zenfone Selfie is powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 615, a 64-bit processor with a clock speed of 1.5 GHz, 3GB of RAM, and an Adreno 405 GPU. Processing performance have been satisfying all through my time with the device. Everything feels fast and snappy. You can browse through different social media apps with a breeze. Different applications also launches in a snap, and with the help of its spacious 3GB of RAM, you can switch between different applications straight away, even if you're coming from an intensive gameplay. Titles like Mortal Kombat and Real Racing 3 run seamlessly on this one. The Snapdragon 615 carried the large 1080p display very well, which results to an immersive gaming experience. Although I have seen it struggle a little with a city building game called SimCity. As the city and the population grows, the processor is having a hard time juggling all the animations caused by all those tiny, yet tons of game elements. But on a brighter note, the device doesn't overheat too much. The Zenfone Selfie starts to amp its temperature in an instant that you start a game, but the warmth is not as exaggerating as what you would experience in any other device. The Asus Zenfone Selfie is being run under Android 5.0.2 Lollipop. But Lollipop doesn't come alone on this smartphone. Just like any other Zen device, this one also comes with the company's very own skin, the Zen UI. This particular skin is probably the most bloated that I've ever used. Although the jam-packed interface doesn't slow the processor down, the Zen UI doesn't have the weird and unnecessary gestures and animations that may cause the processor some stress. It is in the actual look of everything and the long list of pre-installed apps that makes it heavy. Although some settings and implementations are actually usable. To name some, the settings menu on the app drawer is kinda neat. It helps you group apps easily by categorizing them and sorting them into folders. There's also some shortcut buttons on the lock screen to quick access some apps, which can also be customized on the settings menu. Zen Motion for some off-screen gestures are also present, so you can just double tap the display to turn it on without having to exhaustingly reach for the lock button. It also allows you to draw letters, so you can quickly launch applications, which can be assigned in the settings menu. One-hand mode shrinks the screen down so you can reach everything effortlessly on this large display. If the device's name still doesn't make it obvious, the Asus Zenfone Selfie is for trigger happies. We do have a 13MP primary camera with True Tone flash and laser autofocus at the back. And right at front, we also have a 13MP secondary camera and also a True Tone flash. Yup, the primary camera is as good as the sometimes neglected front-facing camera, hence the word selfie in the device's title. The primary camera can take beautiful photos, unsurprisingly, for as long as you set the exposure right. The sample shots exhibits pictures with decent contrast, distinct saturation but not exaggerated, and acceptable dynamic range. Sharpness is also on point. The inclusion of laser autofocus is appreciated, although the difference in speed between having this and a standard autofocus system isn't that substantial in real-world usage. The camera application also has tons of features to play with, and our favorite would definitely be the manual mode, which gives us the ability to manually set the ISO, exposure value, shutter speed, white balance, and of course, focus. Now to the highlight of this device, the selfie camera. Since we do have the same sensor with the primary camera, we can expect the same photo quality. But since the whole experience doesn't only depend on the hardware per se, we're taking a closer look at the camera app. Well, both cameras also uses the same software, but they have separate available modes. For this one, we have the option to shoot using different modes like beautification, selfie panorama, low light, and many more. But let me give emphasis to the beautification mode since this will probably the most used feature. This helps the user to look more pleasant when taking selfies by virtually whitening their skin, making those large cheeks thinner, or removing blemishes and spots. The high-resolution sensor on this thing can produce a more realistic photo, despite some heavy software interventions. The app also lets you to slide up the shutter button to easily set the timer, Plus, the front-facing True Tone flash can give a helping hand for those low-light self-portraits without overblowing the exposure, which usually happens on standard flashes. There's a removable 3000 mAh battery on this one, a feature that's starting to go extinct on today's flagship devices. With that having said, our battery tests concluded some standard to impressive results. Screen on time exceeded the 4-hour mark. That is hours of continuously shifting from playing games and watching YouTube videos, while moderate usage like occasionally browsing the web, social media surfing, and casually sending and receiving SMS lasted the device for more than 24 hours with still some juice to spare. The Zenfone Selfie is probably one of the best, if not the best, smartphone in its category today. It is easy to build a powerful device for an economical price, but it goes a long way to include some more useful novelties. Considering the price tag, there's a lot to like about the Zenfone Selfie. The powerful Qualcomm processor with 3GB of RAM and a large 1080p display is perfect not only for media consumption and gaming, but also for productivity junkies. There's also dual SIM cards that are both capable of 4G connections, and of course, the large and removable battery is a big relief. On the other hand, I think Asus should go easy with the software. I appreciate the effort, but for me, everything about designing the interface is delicate. Thus, everything should be just nice and simple. If I'll be nitpicking, I kinda wish the device has a better build quality, NFC, or even front-facing stereo speakers to fully unleash its media capabilities. But then again, we're just being excessive, considering that it is being retailed for only 11,995 pesos. The Asus Zenfone Selfie isn't a sequel to anything, and if there's a second part to this, we are excited. This has been NoypiGeeks' review of the Asus Zenfone Selfie. For a more detailed look about this device, make sure to check out the full written review link below. You can also hit the thumbs up button and share this video if you liked it. And also subscribe if you still haven't. Thank you for watching.